So a lot of times as filmmakers, we're always on this quest for the perfect camera. And if you're someone who's into narrative film like me, but also on a budget like me, finding a cinema camera that can offer you a lot of the assist features that you need in order to do a lot of narrative and cinematic film is next to impossible. But what if I told you that for $300 you have a camera that can film in DCI Cinema 4K and pretty much has all the assist features that you could ask for in a cinema camera, aside from one caveat that might not even matter depending on what type of shooter you are. So if you guys are new to this channel, my name is DaVinci HD. I do vlogs and we pretty much talk and have conversations about anything that comes to filmmaking. So if you like this channel and you get something out of it, I appreciate it. Just give it a like, give it a subscribe. Helps the algorithm, helps me keep doing videos like this for you guys. So the camera that I'm talking about today is going to be the Pansonic Lumix GH4. So at the time of recording this camera is going to be about 10 years old. This camera came out in 2014. So before y'all click off of this video, just hear me out for a second, because I already know what you guys are thinking. You're probably already asking yourself, why is he using the GH4 instead of the GH5? It's a better camera, better codecs, in-body stabilization, has V-Log. And I hear you guys, I understand what you're saying, and I got a GH5 sitting over here, but that's not the purpose of this video. So just hear me out for a second before you click off of it. Now listen, I'm not going to get into a full rundown of this camera. There are plenty of videos for that. What I am going to do is just give you the specifics. This camera can shoot 4K up to 24 frames per second and can shoot 1080p up to 60 frames per second. It's a micro four thirds sensor, so getting lenses for this camera is going to be pretty much always affordable. Like I can tell you right now, for the GH4 and GH5, which are pretty much identical cameras except for a couple features, I've never had trouble finding lenses for these cameras, either one of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you guys a little cinematic real quick while I talk to you guys about what I really get out of this camera and some of the benefits as to why this camera would be good for you in 2024. And then after that, we'll come back and then I'll talk about some of the things that might stray you away from this camera if you're looking to pick up something like this in 2024. All right, so as I talk about this footage, I think it's real important for me to point out that I've owned this camera for about 3 years, right? Now I could have just as easily did a review on this camera or the GH5 the week I got it or the same month I got it, and the reason that I don't do stuff like that is because I don't feel like I can really give you guys an honest review or, you know, an authentic thought on a piece of gear after a week of using it. And I'm not saying that other YouTubers that do that, you know, their opinion is invalid or what they say about a piece of gear is wrong or incorrect, or that what I'm saying is superseding what they talk about. I'm not shit in this game, even though I've been in it for 10 years. Like, we're just going to be honest about that. But when it comes to a piece of gear, I just feel like I need at least 3 to 6 months, if not a year, with that piece of gear to understand the quirks, what can go wrong with it, you know, how it suits me and the way that I shoot on set. So when we're talking about this footage, I basically took it, rigged it up, went and got some daytime, midday, nighttime footage. Basically, I put a matte box on it. I put a Meike 25mm cinema lens on it, which with the micro four thirds crop gives it a 50mm equivalent. It's a ×2 crop. Basically went out into my city, got some really good footage. Went to my brother's house, got some footage of my nephew, and I really enjoyed this camera. Like I said, for $300, having a camera that can shoot DCI Cinema 4K is really unheard of in 2024 when you're looking to shoot narrative film. You don't necessarily need, you know, an expensive, you know, $2,500 cinema camera to get the shot that you need for the type of work that you're trying to do. Now, also, as I'm talking about this footage, if you're someone who's concerned with the low light capabilities of the micro four thirds sensor, I'm going to get to that later. But just to give you a caveat to that before we get into that conversation, I am going to tell you that if you're shooting in a control setting, that's not something that's really going to be a caveat for you. And like I said, a camera like this, for the amount of money that you can get it for in 2024, with the amount of assist features you have like zebras, histogram, focus peaking, all of the metering modes that you can have. You know, I think this is a perfect camera for specific type of shooters. But honestly, before I get into that, we're going to get into some of the caveats that I don't like about this camera. The one thing that really turns me off about this camera, I'm going to be honest with you, is the fact that it does not have in-body stabilization. That is one of the things that really got me to get the GH5, which I'm going to talk about in another video. But compared to that, it's really night and day when it comes to the amount of stability that you can get out of this camera. Now, I'm going to tell you that you can get stable footage if you hook this camera up to, say, like a gimbal, or if you rig it up and just add more weight to it. My rig didn't have that much weight to it. I didn't have like a big, you know, V-mount battery or anything like that on it. All I had was my lens and a follow focus and a monitor and a handle, and I just went out and got what I could. The footage isn't the most stable. I did apply some stabilization to some shots in post that was just unbearable to look at. You know, this wasn't something where I was just trying to get the best footage out of the camera. I just wanted you to kind of get a glimpse of what it looks like in DCI Cinema 4K, what it looks like at 24 frames per second, and what it looks like with the color rendition that you can get out of this camera, especially when you pair it with a cinema lens, right? One, it doesn't shoot 4K 60. That's something that, you know, for a lot of work that I do a lot of weddings, I do a lot of music videos, I do a lot of commercial work, and being able to slow down your footage in a higher quality is really important to me, which is one of the reasons why I got the GH5. Being able to slow mode, you can do it in 1080p 60. It's not the best quality. You can scale it up if you want to, upscaling it in post, but really is going to be better if you're able to get that 4K 60 quality. So that's one reason that some people looking at this camera would just go ahead and just save a little bit of money and go ahead and get the GH5, which I wouldn't be mad at you at all if you did. But if you're someone who's on a super tight budget, you can get away with the GH4 as far as being able to shoot and upscaling in post. So I think one of the biggest concerns that people will probably have about this camera, if you're not already asking yourself, and they probably have this question about Panasonic cameras in general, is the micro four thirds sensor, it being a ×2 crop sensor, and whether that can perform good in low light for what you need as far as cinematic film. It's a very fair concern to have giving this sensor, but I'm going to be honest with you. In the right lit setting, at 24 frames per second, I don't see much of a problem that you're going to have with this camera. You see a lot of the footage that I got, the ISO, I didn't really go above 1250 on any of the low light footage that I got. That's about as high as that you're going to get. And I mean, you be the judge for yourself. I enjoyed the footage that I got. I was able to play with it in post and really get some good stuff out of it. I think if you really control your lighting, you can get some great footage out of this. I would stay away from 60 frames per second in low light with this camera, just being completely honest with you, unless you have a super fast lens. We're talking about like a, you know, f1.0 or T1, or like a Sigma f1.4 or something like that, you know, like something super fast as far as aperture is concerned, is the only time that I would really go 60 frames per second 1080p with this camera and be slightly okay with getting away with it. And the other couple things that I talked about, like the in-body stabilization and 4K 60, you know, those things aren't necessarily caveats that will really concern you if you're a certain specific type of shooter. And I'm going to explain those two types of shooters right now. So I think this camera is specific for somebody who is wanting to get into filmmaking and wants to learn how a camera works. Like if you're wanting to learn your exposure triangle, which is ISO, shutter, aperture, learning your frame rate, learning how to, you know, get composition, this camera offers every single type of filmmaking assist feature that you can ask for, right? The only thing that this doesn't have is internal ND filters, but you can get a variable ND and stick it on the front of your lens and be able to get whatever you need to get as far as daylight is concerned and not blow out your highlights and stuff like that. And that's why I say picking up this camera would be great for $300, because if you can take this camera and master it, you can pretty much pick up any camera and be able to operate it. All you would have to do is just learn the ergonomics of the camera and where the settings are that you're trying to get to. But once you learn certain settings, once you've picked up one camera, you can pick them all up. It's just all about learning where everything is at, just to be honest with you. So another type of person that I think this camera is for is someone who's wanting to get into narrative film and don't necessarily have the budget for a top of the line cinema camera, you know, a box camera or something like that. Cinema cameras can get anywhere in from, you know, $1,000 to $2,000, anywhere up to about $10,000, and even higher than that when it comes to the camera body itself, getting a lens to put on it, things of that nature. So having a camera for $300, listen to what I told you, $300 that can shoot in DCI 4K. That's insane in 2024. I don't think I know of any other camera on the market that can shoot of this high quality for this low amount of money. If you can find one, put it in the comments and I'll try to see if I can get it and do a video on it. But to be honest with you, like I said, for $300, 4K DCI, every assist feature you need, you're able to rig this thing up. What's not to like about this camera if you're on a super tight budget? But like I said, if you can muster up a few extra $100 and get the GH5, I would recommend getting the GH5. But if you're someone who's on a budget, I can't recommend this camera enough. And one of the main reasons that I wanted to do this video is because a lot of times as filmmakers, we'll stop ourselves from making the piece of art that we want to make because we feel like we don't have the right lens, or we don't have the right camera, or we don't have, you know, the right moment or opportunity, or everything just isn't in place for us to get it the way we want to get it. And I did this video to kind of show that nothing's really stopping you. As long as you have a camera that can shoot in 24 frames per second, 1080p to 4K, you can pretty much shoot the narrative piece of film that you want to film in 2024. It's just all about understanding your lighting, getting around people that see your vision and want to see that vision come to light. And honestly, man, just getting yourself a camera, going out there and just shooting, man, because what I tell people all the time, you can look at 1,000 courses, you can take 1,000 notes, but until you go out there and you press record and you go through the growing pains, you'll never get the gains that you want to get if you don't go out there and actually do the activity. And it's about understanding what can go wrong here, understanding what settings go where. And honestly, if we want to just keep it simple, just understanding your exposure triangle, man. If you can just understand that, you can pick up any camera and put out the type of content that you need to put out. So I say that to say this: if you're on a budget, get you a good camera. It'll do what you needed to do. Don't be afraid to put out that piece of art that you want to put out. This is a dope camera. If you got some extra money, get the GH5. This is not the camera that I would start a video production company with. If you're looking to like turn this into a business, this is not the camera that I would start with. But if you're someone just looking to put out good narrative content and you're on a budget and you feel like you'll just take the camera and keep it, or if you're someone who just wanting to get into it as a hobby, this is the perfect camera for you, man. I can't even stress it enough. Just go ahead and get it. It's 300 bucks. Dude, worst case scenario, it'll stay around in case you need it for something in the long run. It's like, with cameras being as expensive as they are in 2024, man, like just pick it up and just have it as a backup. You never know, man. So listen, man, that's all from me today. I done talked enough. If you made it this far and you got something out of this video, I really appreciate it. I really love if you drop a like and subscribe for me. It really helps me keep these videos coming out. It's been another one from your boy Da Vinci HD, reminding you to keep pressing record. I'll see you guys on set.